The Thursday, March 26th, Grand Marais Public Library Board of Trustees meeting to order. I'm Sarah McManus, trustee.
City of Grand Marais representative.
Electra Brandwin, library director.
Right. Thank you all for being here. On the consent agenda, we've got the approval of the agenda for tonight, the bills for the month, and the minutes. Anything anyone wanted to pull out of the consent agenda?
I had a question about the minutes. Because I wasn't here. I was looking at them, and one thing I just wanted to know about, there was a mention here, could increase the insurance deductible 10,000 to 20,000. Was that just like we're just talking about it? Did any action come from that, or that was just a talking point?
Just a talking point. We did not take any action.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Would you like to, do you want to add it? This is if you want to add it to the agenda.
No, that wouldn't be necessary. I was just wondering if there could action had taken.
To move his consent agenda.
Second.
Kevin. And Luke. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, Electra, you would kick us off with your report.
I would love to take a minute to recognize and celebrate Andrew Hallberg, a library clerk here who has achieved his first year of employment with us. He is very much appreciated by the public who love seeing the younger face as well as receiving.
Wonderful.
We are actively recruiting a youth services librarian as well as a library clerk. We are down about 62 hours of staffing every week while those positions remain open. We recently refreshed and expanded the reach of some of our postings for the position, and we are still continuing to receive some applications and would love to make some hires soon.
Are the applications looking good?
We have been able to interview one person for children's librarian, and they have another promising applicant on the horizon here.
Oh, good.
Yeah. For finances, I just wanted to report back and close that communication loop that you were looking for clarification on the NSFCU investment accounts. We had talked about how there was the M. Lacey and the patronage rebate that we were looking to move to the 4M fund, and we wanted to make sure that they both had to move at the same time because the patronage account, the patronage rebate was earning a 10% interest rate. So they are dependent on each other, and the recommendation remains to move all of the monies to close the North Shore Federal Credit Union account, move all of those monies, the 18,000 plus the 2,000, to the 4M account, which will allow it to gain better interest and remain liquid.
Good.
Right.
Okay. Winter reading program is going to wrap up on tomorrow. Yay. And I don't know if you've noticed, but staff have been so fantastic in participating alongside patrons. We are as excited as they are about the bingo game. And Friends of Cook County means that the staff whose raffle is drawn tomorrow will also get a basket. But we have one basket left here for a member of the public to receive, and we'll get to pass that out tomorrow. Youth continue to level up with each bingo that they are achieving through their reading, and they'll continue to collect prizes for the next couple of weeks here. Friday Night Reels series concluded. We offered 6 weeks of programs and had, I think, 124 people attending those. The opening film was Sinners, and that won 2 Grammys. Best Score Soundtrack for Visual Media and Best Compilation Soundtrack for Visual Media. The film definitely challenged some of our attendees for the level of gore, but it also was a remarkable film to experience, and just for its vision, and the casting was also fantastic. Summer reading program, though, begins now, and That's because it's not only the reading logs that get passed out, but it's also a robust set of programs that go along with it, including engagement activities and ongoing programs. We're going to have bugs, we're going to have reptiles, we're going to have the Jolly Pops, which are dad parents who sing to kids. So we're going to have some entertainment with the Jolly Pops. I'm still looking for a season finale entertainment piece, but I'm talking to a couple of local restaurateurs, if you will, to see if they might. Along with the summer reading program, I think it's just beneficial for everyone to know that Arrowhead Library System does a regional level planning session where everybody gets to brainstorm around the theme, which this year is plant a seed, read. So everybody's excited about the gardening and the food and nutrition aspects, as well as just the idea of planting the imagination with fresh ideas.
It's a really great theme, though. Kudos to the PR person who thought that up, for the librarian.
Yeah, and I don't know if y'all have read the Bad Seed books. There's like the Cool Bean and the Bad Seed, and there's a whole
No.
series of these books. But that's the mascot.
Mhm.
So he may be getting into mischief around the town this year, so we can ask people where he's been hiding. I want to draw attention to collection management practices that have been going on. Generally, when we go understaffed, the first thing that I put on pause is the collection, because it is because circulation is a priority, because programming drives engagement and keeps the public excited about their visits to the library, as well as engaged and growing. Whereas we can oftentimes delay weeding the collection and just keep functioning. While we're training new librarian one staff, that means that learning how to purchase materials for the library in a thoughtful way, learning to do the cataloging of the materials, learning how to weed the collection according to policy, all of that has to be learned and practiced. So I'm very excited that we're at a stage now where our new bookshelf that you pass when you walk in is starting to look fuller every day.
Yes.
And that means that the whole cycle is starting to function, that these materials are being purchased is a thing, that they're being cataloged is exciting, but also that they have space to move into the collection is really huge. And so that piece of having paused weeding or inventory in the collection over the years through the several disruptions that we've experienced, being able to come back home to that and really pay it the attention it needs is important and exciting and happening now. So what you're seeing on this shelf is a bit of that rhythm and that flow coming back. And I'm really excited. I think I said that.
That's great.
Any questions for me? Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thanks too.
Kevin, I'm gonna look over your shoulder. My iPad seems to have pooped out here.
Under new business, we've got the Minnesota Public Library Annual Report. This needs to be submitted next week,
By
31st?
the 31st.
by the 31st,
Yeah.
which is coming right up. So we need to address any issues today and approve it. Did you guys have any questions?
No, I looked through it and it generally looked good.
Mhm.
My one question that I asked Electra before was, our library board is really hybrid. And it doesn't appear that there's a place that we can indicate that.
So we're both governing and
Yeah, so I think we'll leave it for now, and maybe next year we can figure it out.
yeah, it's always exciting to see all the numbers and all
It is.
what you've achieved over the past 12 months.
Mhm.
And I would like to say that, given that there's been a shortage of staffing, I think the numbers have stayed really up. And there's been, it's been a good job. A lot of work by the people who are here.
Thank you.
Was there anything in this report that you came across that concerned you or worried you? Or were you happy with it when you looked at all the numbers for real like this?
Are you asking what my interpretation, what my analysis of the results
Yes.
are? I want to spend more time with that, maybe come back with some thoughts. Let me come back
Okay.
to you.
So we are looking for a motion to approve.
I would make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We can submit. I'll sign off on that afterwards.
Thanks.
Then we had the website administration proposals. So skip to the end of your packet.
Mhm.
Let's start from there.
Well, I looked at the websites that have been done by all three people or all three entities, and the local person, the young woman who does websites, her work is absolutely beautiful. It's probably worth the money, but I think it's also probably more than we need, which means it's not worth it for us. The other, and I don't have it in front of me now, the other, and is it Streamline?
Streamline.
Yeah, they do government, mostly websites for government entities. There's nothing, they work well. There's nothing particularly amazing or attractive about them in my estimation.
But this kind of website doesn't have to be pretty. It has to be
Exactly.
functional.
Yes. However, the third provider, I thought, did nice websites.
And wasn't that the cheapest one?
It was the cheapest one. I thought they were fairly attractive. I mean, I agree with you, Sue. It doesn't have to knock your socks off. It has to be functional.
Just has
But
to do it.
It should be somewhat
And
attractive.
kept up to date.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and kept up to date. And the Streamline ones just made me want to go to sleep. And I do think that we need well, I'm going to say attractive, but not overly attractive, shall we
Well, and
say?
keep in mind, we're not doing a full redesign at this point.
Yes,
At this
okay.
point, we're just needing to migrate and become ADA accessible.
Right. Okay.
So we're looking
And-
for functionality.
We're looking for functionality. And I think that, I noticed that Arrowhead is one of the customers.
This
So
is
I
Sprout
take it
customer,
you
yeah.
worked with this person.
Mm-hmm.
And what is your evaluation?
He's very responsive. So when I need changes, usually next day, very easy to work with. Work is accurate.
That's great. One of the things I noticed, and this may not be something we need, but it might be something we will need someday, and that is that he works in various languages, or he has the software to do that, I believe. And it could be such a thing that we might, who knows, need something like that in the future. So my estimation is I think we should go with Sprout.
How long a contract do we sign with each, whichever one we choose?
Sprout does not work with contracts. You come in when you want and you leave when you're ready. And the design of his websites for you are portable. They're made with WordPress, which I think the others were recommending. Sweetwater was recommending too. Streamline is an annual contract. And Sweetwater is a upfront fee for redesigning the website and then ongoing costs to maintain. And those ongoing costs are about $1,000 before we ask for any support or add any plugins, calendars, what have you.
Well, I would say go with Sprout, especially since Sarah has actually worked with them and can vouch for them.
We don't have much to lose if we're not committing ourselves for a long time to this.
Well, that's true too. I mean,
If we don't
yeah,
like it,
I did happen to think of that. If it doesn't turn out to be what we need, we are not,
That is
Stuck.
definitely an advantage. And if we decide in a year or two that we want to do a full website
Right.
refresh,
exactly.
I think I would be making a different decision if it was, we're going to redo the whole website and the look and feel.
Mhm.
But just in terms of functionality, I agree. I think Sprout
Yeah.
is a good deal.
And maybe he can refresh it a little bit.
Or at least give Electra the tools to remove outdated material and
Mhm.
put in
Yeah.
current material.
One of the things that I appreciated about Sprout was that he was very clear. Any work that we do together is part of the $80 a month contract.
Oh,
So if we
good.
decide to refresh, rebrand, as far as I understand, we just work on that.
That's pretty amazing.
Mhm.
Let's,
It's really amazing.
yeah, if that, yeah, maybe at some point you can clarify that. Because I think we might want to refresh, not this moment, but
At some point.
at some point.
Mhm.
But even at that, we don't need a fancy website with tons and tons and tons of pictures. We have a nice picture of the library and some pictures of the inside and,
That's good enough.
It's not like we're selling a destination or
exactly.
a vacation place that needs a prettier website. This just has to do the job.
Do you need a motion or just direction?
I don't actually know.
I feel like we just need to make a decision and say, we'd
Go
like you to
that
proceed
direction.
with,
Go forth.
go for
Go
it.
for
then.
it. We
Collaborate
therefore
with Sprout.
direct you.
You good with that?
Yes.
All right, and then year-end expenses review, we do have, is it before or after the website stuff? Just before, oh no, just after. The year-end expenses for 2025, always good just to take a look through and see how our budgeting versus actuals turned out. As Electra was saying, the library's been understaffed, so we expect to see some under expenditure in a
Mhm.
lot of categories related to staffing and that whole.
Yeah, it's cheaper to be understaffed. Not cool, but cheaper.
That's
Not
true.
what we want. But yeah.
All right, and then our standing item is the strategic plan. We had talked about thinking of quarterly projects. We're coming to the end of Q1 where we focused on finances. We had Kim here last month, which was
Mhm.
really great.
It was.
We talked about looking in Q2 at focus area 1, and which is the library inspires robust community involvement. We had chatted about thinking about a survey. Is that something we want to talk about?
I was doing some thinking about this, and we do want to inspire robust community involvement. However, since the library's understaffed, I guess I would rather that Electra and her staff continue with the whole working with the collection at this point. Because on the one hand, if we get people into the library and the collection is not functioning as it should, then we've done some false advertising. But I'm a bit concerned about overextending the staff that is here.
I think that's a very real concern.
Mhm.
Well, there's enough flexibility that if I can't find the book here, I can find it and get it from Grand Rapids or wherever, if
Mhm.
it comes in a day or so.
That's
Mhm.
true. That's true.
Yeah,
The collection is still good.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's mostly a reading selection. If I wanted to find out something about bookkeeping, I have to find someplace else to
Well,
find it.
yeah,
It's a
It's,
little library, that's,
yeah, it's not, it's
that's
not.
reality.
Yeah, I understand.
yes.
The
But
reading library should be.
no, I agree with you. The collection is good, but it has to be maintained always. But I am very concerned with overextending the staff that's here. So,
I don't know, I feel like we can look into community involvement without completely worrying about overextending
Okay.
the staff.
Yeah.
We don't have an action item here so much as let's find out more.
okay,
Isn't that how you would interpret it?
okay. What are you thinking, Sue? What are you?
I don't
propose
know,
that
but
we
I
might
feel
do?
like some sort of survey where we could figure out, and I have no idea how you do this.
Mhm.
Figure out, are we meeting the needs of all the peripheral areas around here?
Mhm.
Electra, how do you feel about that?
I appreciate the attentiveness to the impact it would have on staff to try to continue to extend ourselves out when what's needed is to maintain. When I connect with Focus Area 1 and I go back to our strategic planning sessions that we all did together with this, I feel like this theme emerged from those exercises where it was like a doomsday scenario, right? Some of us had a scenario where the library burned to the ground, and some of us had a scenario where we just inherited so much money we couldn't believe it. And one of the themes that came through repeatedly was that our vision for how we get through and how we make decisions really comes down to community involvement. So it's like we had visions of all these organizations around us coming to our aid, or like, Cook County Higher Ed could help us in this way, and these types of businesses could help us in that way. And in order to ensure that that network is available in a time of crisis or excitement, we need to be sure that we're extending ourselves in a way that's meaningful. And I feel like that is the heart of what created Focus Area 1. So figuring out whether we are meeting the needs or where those needs are not being met seems on point. Like it seems like a first step in that direction. And information gathering is certainly takes some effort, but I don't think we're asking for the whole plan to be rolled out at this point. We're finding it out.
That makes sense.
So what I'm hearing is like we're not at the point of the action items where we're trying to request meetings and visit classrooms and create the user guide. We're trying to understand which of those might rise in priority and make the most impact for our community right now today.
Yeah, we don't have to do it yet. We have to figure out what needs to be done.
Mhm.
I do think too that when you're understaffed, when your services are cut in half because of whatever thing, whether it's like the pandemic and we're closed or we're flooded and that part of the building isn't available anymore, you really find out what the people who are using the library miss about it. And in so many of our scenarios, the answer was like access to a bathroom, just the basics and a place to come to connect to the internet and the Wi-Fi. But missing our children's librarian and missing the level of staffing has really shown a new picture, a picture where the community is noticing that the books were not on the shelf. Does that mean we've lost funding? So it's a perception. Then there are several homeschooling groups that are connected to the library and love the library and would appreciate it very much if we were able to have some pop-up engagement things for their groups in particular, like, can you help us get a patch from our troop, our club? Can you show our kids how the library is organized and that books just aren't set wherever?
Mm-hmm.
We have folks who are interested in seeing certain parts of the library outfitted in new ways. For example, it's not a conference room. This quiet room over here, the meeting room that can be reserved, it houses 6 people. is so often used as a virtual conferencing space, and there are requests to formalize the space in that way. This is feedback that I have access to through no formal process, but by staying connected to the people who are using the library and feeling uncomfortable with that loss of staff, not having a point children's librarian does come up. And it's also fair to say that that data is who's using the library right now today and what they love and miss about it and where they think we can grow. I think focus area 4 and a little bit of focus area 1 is saying, but who are we missing? Who's out there that we're not even thinking about because the voices here are so strong and always calling for attention as they should. And so I guess that's where I would be looking for direction a little bit too. Again, is like, are we determined to extend ourselves? Are we looking to connect with businesses, organizations, and groups? Are we looking to strengthen the relationships and confidence that we have with the people who are using us right now today? Where are we wanting to grow the most? Just even when I think about outfitting this room as a conference space, which I'm just lightly exploring, you would be looking at an investment of $7,000 to $10,000 for installing technology and furniture to fit the use of a collaborative office-like space.
Who else uses it besides the people who want to do conferencing? My concern is if it's outfitted as a conference room, would there be people who do use it who would be shut out of a space that they need?
We'd be voting for sure on how the space serves the community the best. Other folks who use the room, maybe just looking for a private study space, the room could still be used that way in the way that I'm conceptualizing, solving the problems that are being presented. I also think it can make the space more popular, more in demand. Going back to our website conversation, something that excites me about the refresh on the website is being able to install tools that would allow the public to see whether the meeting room is available and potentially even submit a request to use it to help staff manage.
That'd be nice.
But then also if you install all the technology, the way that it would work is staff would have to all be trained and be able to intermediate between the technology and the public and trying to use it. Whereas if they are reliant on their own materials instead of library provided technology, they may have more familiarity, but who is they? It's people with the technology. So just to talk around the whole issue, whether we're looking at addressing how this one particular space is used. And it's a big conversation, you guys, because there's not a lot of available public meeting space in the community. Or if we're talking about having outgrown the shelving units that are in the children's room and having a vision for more playful, engaging space and furniture. We're rolling out a red carpet with lots of tasks involved, so it just comes back to who are we designing this library for? How we want it to look for the future.
I have a question. When you get feedback, how do you get it? Just by someone happening to come up and speak to you, or where do you get these ideas? How do they happen?
It happens through the relationships that my staff and I cultivate with our community members and patrons. And it can happen from people who are visiting the library and just off the cuff telling us what they're experiencing and how frustrated they are or aren't, how grateful they are about the help that they're getting. It can be, I'm in the line at the grocery store and somebody's talking to me about something that's happening elsewhere, and it's all the things, but it's not a survey.
But in some ways, it's as good as.
It's trustee feedback.
I think one of the things that and maybe because I've come from a place where the library had many branches, obviously we're not going to start a new branch. That's not where I'm going. But Cook County is so big. And I do wonder about accessibility for people, especially I think about Portage. I have my son works up there, so it's present. And I don't know exactly where I'm going with this, except that I am concerned about access, that there probably are people who, and I'm thinking about kids, for example, children, who don't drive yet, for example. I don't know I think we need to address it. I wish I had some ideas today definite ideas about how we could. I don't. But I think while, we so often think about it's either or, but I think while we try to improve services here, we also need to be aware of that question of access and think about how we might make that work. And maybe it's a question we can't deal with till we get more staff. But I think we need to.
I think about this access question a lot. And it seems to me, just based on 70 years of going to libraries, that if you want to go to the library, you go. It's, we find a way. I mean,
Maybe,
Maybe, but maybe not.
I mean,
we
This
didn't have
is
a
a
car when
huge
the
county
first
with
library I went to.
bad
We didn't have a
roads.
car. We had to walk.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell a story. Maybe it is relevant, maybe not. But I was one time in the old Lexington Library in St. Paul that used to be at University and Lexington. And a fellow came in, he with a little girl, and she had to get a book for school. And she needed a library card. So the librarian very helpfully got her the library card. Now, these were people who were new to the area. You could tell by their accents. They'd come up from the South. They were probably not, I suspect that the dad probably didn't have a lot of education. Anyway, the little girl got her book and took it out, and the dad said, he pulled out his wallet and he said, "How much do I owe you?" And the librarian was a little bit taken aback and said, "It's free." He said, "You mean I can come in here and it's free?" Well, there are people, and there may be people in Cook County, for all we know, who are not aware of what a library does, or that
Probably true.
they could come in and actually get books that they could borrow. I often think about that. It moves me. I almost want to cry when I think about it. I wanted to cry when I was witnessing it. So I think that's something to just bear in mind. Yes, if you want to go to the library, go to the library, but maybe you don't know much about libraries. And I do think part of our mission over time, because we're not going to do it all at once, is to let people know what the library offers to them.
Well, and today we do have the interwebs, so that does help.
It does help. And same with getting ebooks and things.
Yeah.
That's certainly
Right.
extended our reach compared to 15 years ago.
Especially with the younger folks, and a lot of things you can just get on your phone, and
Yeah.
even people who don't have a lot tend to have a phone.
Yeah, that is true. A lot of people have phones, but how is the access throughout the county? My daughter-in-law, who teaches at the high school,
Yeah.
told me that during the pandemic, I don't know if this was one of her students or a student that she heard of, was standing out in the driveway trying to follow a class because that was the only place he could get the strong enough signal.
Shame, but it happened a lot in Minnesota during that year.
Oh, yeah.
So whether that is a condition that continues, whether things have gotten better, I don't know.
This
not
county's good compared to many counties.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they ran a lot of wires, so.
Yeah.
it's
Thank you, Obama's.
Well, then
plan
maybe,
there.
maybe something to think about in the future is how do we bring the library to people electronically? Not just saying, oh, hey, get online and look at the website, but maybe maybe the library would have internet services of some kind that they could offer people. Maybe a story hour. You mentioned the homeschoolers. No,
Mhm.
maybe something like that. Um,
Don't you think we are doing a pretty good job of offering people internet here?
Yeah, but I'm thinking, what about actual something going on in the library that in a sense is broadcast on the internet? Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay, I see where you're going.
Okay.
Do we think, it sounds like we have lots of ideas. Do we think also a survey is something we want to pursue and start thinking about how we solicit information from other,
Yeah.
both users and not yet users of the library?
And do we have within our, I don't know, in our, if you want to call it circle, within all of those people who love the library and want to help us, can we find some expertise about how the heck you do a good survey? I mean, Sue was saying, she thinks we should survey, but she didn't know how to,
Well,
and I don't either.
no,
But
I have thoughts though. I mean, have we ever done a paper survey of any sort? I mean, that's a simple thing if we know. Survey Monkey, everybody can do that.
everybody can do that.
Maybe
Maybe
we would just have to think of the wording and what are the questions we want to ask. I feel like something like that, like you say, people approach you. Like I'm a person, I would never approach someone else in the grocery store and talk to them. Lots of us are like that. So maybe some other way for people to be heard who are sort of antisocial, you know?
Yeah, I think Survey Monkey is a great thing.
it is a great thing. It can also, I have also talked to people who do know something about surveying. Unfortunately, their knowledge has not rubbed off on me. But if the questions aren't worded correctly, the data, the answers you get are not necessarily helpful, or they're biased, or so there is a question of how is that done. I'm just wondering if there is some expertise in the county that we could tap.
Yeah, there might be. We could search for that. I imagine how to write a good survey can be found on the internet too.
Mhm.
Well, yes,
But
I would check the library.
Yeah, yeah.
this is true.
Perhaps.
But it would also be nice to, if there were a local practitioner, would be nice to check in with someone.
And we have to think about what we want to know about.
Well, see, that's just it.
Yes.
That's just it.
Sounds like what you're saying is you want to know if people feel that they can access the library, and if not,
Mhm.
what would bring it to them, or what would
Right.
make the difference.
Yeah. And, would it be something as simple as mail a book, which already more or less exists, or would it be internet, or would it be, well, I don't think we'll get a bookmobile anytime soon, but that is one way that because we always think internet. But I think, Sue's right about a paper survey that could at least, we all,
It's old school, but it works.
well, a lot of that old school stuff, it does work.
Mhm.
The internet isn't it's the answer to everything.
Wait, what? Hold
Oh,
Most
it's useful, but it isn't the answer to everything.
The other thing is sometimes you get answers to a survey that don't feel good. Sometimes people are brutal.
Well, that's okay though. I mean, we're grown-ups.
Yeah, so you have to think about that when you write your questions.
Mhm.
So I think I'm going to approach this as maybe starting this survey with a particular community. For example, if I worked through the schools, specifically wondering how children throughout Cook County are able to access the families and children are able to access the libraries or not, and get some feedback about how that survey performs, and then perhaps expand the search to residents living outside of Grand Marais or something like that. So start with a smaller population, see what happens with the survey, watch its performance after doing all the research, right? And then expand it, make it a little larger. And if all we did this year was focused on trying to gather the right information and to start having ideas by the end of the year about the direction to head, that might be a good place, a good position to be in.
Too.
And to just not approach this as though we're going to do the one survey that's all, the one,
Right.
Yes.
the one survey that answers everything, but
Mhm.
hopefully one that expands how we're approaching
What if we
inspiring
did,
community.
talking about old school, what if we had a suggestion box? And people could just write an anonymous request or complaint, as the case may be, and drop it into a suggestion box at the front desk.
I would not recommend that.
No.
When we first bought the lodge, there was one of those sitting in the front entry, and it doesn't work.
It doesn't work?
No, it's just an invitation to write something crazy and stick it in the
Oh, okay.
box.
Yeah.
Did you get a lot of complaints?
No, we got just
Silly
inane stuff.
Okay, well, I withdraw the suggestion then.
Sarah, what experience does Arrowhead have with the community picnics? As if I were to think of those as a way to gather in-person survey feedback,
Mhm.
having picnics around the valley, the county.
They're great for getting anecdotal feedback. So that it's a great way to have a one-on-one conversation, a more in-depth conversation with someone about the cooperative and what they need from it or what their vision is for it. But it's hard to get kind of a broad survey. We have used professional surveyors to reach out to members for surveys. Those are expensive, but that's something we could even look into.
Mhm.
Like running the patron database is another way I hadn't really considered.
Mhm.
Sending like a paper mail thing.
What I like about the idea of starting with children and families is that we have access to schools throughout the county.
Yes.
So among the 4 schools, you could easily reach out to lots of families that way.
I think it's a very good idea.
I think it also meets the goal of inspiring that community involvement and visiting classrooms countywide. Maybe I can't do all the classrooms, but can I engage the schools themselves and express interest and create a relationship where they feel safe and trusting to send our materials home with the schools, the student body.
Mhm.
Sometimes I think just asking the question is the most powerful thing.
Mhm.
Okay. So I have some direction here. I'd like to digest this and see what I come up with and try to present something to the board that you can provide feedback on it at the next meeting, if I can pull it off. And
That's
if
a
you
good
have
start.
Yeah.
if you have any other feedback that occurs to you after this, now that we've done some brainstorming, please feel free to connect. I would love to actually meet with everybody in the next month or two and just see how you're doing, see how board service is going, anything we want to touch base on, and yeah, all of that. Great. Okay, what else?
The last thing we have is just the fund statement from the St. Paul, Minnesota Foundation. And that will bring us to a close at 5:45. We are adjourned. Thank you all so
Okay.
much.
Excellent. Well, I'm excited about this way of looking at outreach.
The 26th, right?